Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about responsive themes and HTML5. So what HTML5 is basically we've been using to develop for the web HTML4, HTML3 since 1999 basically. And what HTML5 did, it ushered in a new way of developing websites. And even though it's still a work in progress, it's been around for quite a while, and Apple are one of the first to really fully adopt HTML5. And what that meant was with HTML5, CSS3 and JavaScript, what it basically meant was that for instance, everything would be available through a browser without additional plugins. Like remember when you used to have to, and in some cases you still do on some of the older sites, have to install a plugin to see Flash. Well, Flash was the way that we made animation on websites, and also the way that the videos on YouTube played. But now they're all in HTML5, which you don't need the plugin, and that's why Steve Jobs really pushed the envelope with this by saying, "I'm not going to support Flash on iPads or on my mobile phones. We don't need it anymore now that HTML5 is the standard." You know, and so basically, HTML5 has ushered in a new way of doing development. It doesn't have a huge amount to do with how you do anything as an owner of a website, but it does have a fairly big impact on how websites are developed. Okay, so the one major thing that you'll see with, the two major things you'll see with websites that are now HTML5 compliant is you'll find that they don't need Flash. You don't need to have any silly Flash running around your website. You don't need Flash for people to view videos on your site. But most importantly, we've seen responsive web design come into the fold, probably the last 12 months, more so the last 6 months, and that's going to continue, that trend's going to continue. So now pretty much any serious web developer will develop your theme in a responsive manner. And that basically means that your theme will respond to the device being used by the user. So if they're using an iPad rather than a desktop computer or a laptop or a mobile phone, the site will style through to it. So let's just look at a few examples here. So if we look at this, I'm now coming into the version that you would see on an iPad. And now I'm coming into the version you'd see on a mobile phone. And that there is the mobile phone version there. You'll see that everything's on the website. Now if I go to some of the other sites, you'll see this one doesn't work. See, the menu doesn't work across. So this one isn't compliant. And you'll notice that you have to scroll sideways as well. Okay? But if we go to a few other websites, like this one here, look at this, everything's perfectly in order. Okay? Including a couple of my websites. Okay? My personal website. All the images change the size, same with the videos. Okay, and everything's available on a phone. And then I scroll out to an iPad, and that's how it looks on an iPad. Then I scroll out to, so you see that's the iPad version. Okay, again this one here works on an iPad, but not very well. There's still some side scrolling to be done here. This one here works on an iPad, although the background image is pretty poorly formatted. And then look at that one. Look how it jumps across. See, it jumps across down, jumps across back. Everything formats beautifully. So when you're asking your web developer to develop your new site, say I want it to be responsive. And you can test the responsiveness yourself by just looking at it on your own mobile phone. How does your website work on a mobile phone? And remember, predominantly now there are 3 types of mobile phones and possibly a 4th with Microsoft now entering the fray. But you've got the number 1, which is Android, which is developed by many phone manufacturers. You've got number 2, which is iPhone, which is developed by one manufacturer. Okay. Then you've got BlackBerry, which is pretty much on the way out. I can't see that company surviving much longer. And then you've got Microsoft, which is trying to enter the fold yet again. I don't think it will have much success, but it will have some success. But most mobile phone companies are just not interested in carrying those phones. So Microsoft will probably be forced to develop their own phones. Okay, so you've got iPad, and then you've got Android devices, and now with the new Microsoft 8, Windows 8, which is Surface, you've got some pretty good products out there. Windows is about to release Windows Explorer 10, and Microsoft has been the worst company with compliance over the last decade, but they've been forced to come to the fold and be compliant with their browser. And version 8 was a lot better. Version 7 was deplorable to develop for. Version 8's a lot better. Version 9 is even better still, and version 10 should be very close to all the other major browsers: Safari, Firefox, Opera. It basically means, like 6 or 7 years ago, we really only had to develop for one browser, and that was Internet Explorer. But now we've got to develop for all of them, and we've still got to do some tweaks to get it to work in Internet Explorer, which we always do last. But for the most part, Internet Explorer plays pretty nice with all the major browsers. Okay, so next time you're getting your website developed, insist that it's done in HTML5, and insist that it's a responsive WordPress website that will respond to the device the user's using. Okay, so that's a little bit about responsive design. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got any questions or comment, just add a comment and I'll respond very quickly.